Hello again, everyone. This is the KMN 1971. Finally back with a fresh stack of comics. It's been a while. I've been doing my comic book collection spotlight series, which has been very fun. It got me to finally highlight all of my, or a good chunk of my keys. There's still some more to go, but I'm a lot more ahead than I was before doing it, and it was really cool to very nostalgic, warmy buzz of showing those books off. I really appreciate the feedback. And the commentary and for people taking the time to watch those videos. It was fun to put out there, and it's definitely not the end of those videos. They will definitely be subsequent. It will be like a side series continuously on this channel, and the focus of the comic book collection spotlights will be primarily on classic runs, creator spotlights, character spotlights, and of course focusing in on key issues that'll update maybe once or twice a year as I accrue them. So without any further ado, let's get on into it. There's been a lot of talk lately about the DC Rebirth B covers. Like many of you, I also read the same article on CBSI earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, I'm not sure. But what I did take from that article was that there are no second prints for the B covers. So I can see over time, if it is a desirable cover, how it might hold a little bit more demand as time goes on, seeing that there won't be any other printings for that particular cover, at least as it stands right now. And there have been a couple of B covers throughout Rebirth already that have been kind of hot out of the gate, and this is the latest example of it. Suicide Squad number 16. I want to say when this came out on Wednesday night, it was already selling for like $20 to $25 on eBay. It's cooled down quite a bit since then. Last time I checked, I want to say it's selling between $10 and $15. I ended up picking it up for cover price, which is very cool. And another thing that I've also read about this particular book is kind of like when the last time they did an homage to the Batman Harley Quinn Alex Ross cover. During the Holly Little Black Book promotion, the Batman issue was also damaged because of the polybags and because it was also a black cover. And word on the street is, or on the web rather, is that there were a lot of these books were also damaged. So if you can find a copy of this particular book, I would pick it up and I would sit on it if you want to. All right. So, moving on, and here are some other B covers that I've been picking up over the past month or so. Here is Harley Quinn number 15, which is Frank Cho has just been absolutely killing it for the most part on these Harley Quinn B covers. And this is the one that came bagged with the Badlands mini comic, I guess. So if it was just bagged, no big deal. But usually sometimes when they come bagged with a promotional item on the inside, these books can increase in value sometimes. And even if it doesn't, it's still an awesome Frank Cho Harley cover. Here's number 16. Number 17, which is just bombastic. And from last week, number 18. Fantastic stuff. And I don't know. Adam used his Catwoman and Wonder Woman runs, those covers, which are all fantastic, don't get me wrong. But for the longest time, those were just in long boxes. With the exception of the Catwoman quote-unquote lost cover, mugshot cover, all of those books were just pretty much cover price for the longest time, and then they just all pretty much lit up. And I wouldn't be surprised in a year or two if these Frank Cho Harley covers would light up. It wouldn't surprise me. And it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't do anything either, but these are just beautiful covers. Here is another book that was highlighted on CBSI in regards to the DC Rebirth B covers. This is just a beautiful Josh Middleton mirror cover. If you can pick it up at cover price, I definitely would. And I think that's all it's really going for right now, as of right now. But beautiful cover. And I managed to snag another one of these. Nightwing number 16. This is the homage to Frank Quitely's Batman and Robin number 1 cover. So pretty cool to be able to pick that up at cover price. And this was another example of a book that initially, I want to say the week that it came out, it was around like $20. And it's cooled down since then. I want to say that it goes from maybe like 10, maybe 15 the most on eBay as of right now. But yeah, and you can get it cheaper too. But cool to get if you can snag it at cover price. And then finally, I ended up snagging this, believe it or not, still at cover price. Superman number 10, first appearance of the second iteration of the Super Sons. And I initially bought the B cover, which is a really cool Batman versus Superman cover. But this is one of those rare occasions where cover A is in more demand for some reason than cover B. So, nice. And that'll do it for my DC Rebirth B covers. Moving on to the Green Lantern Corps. After months of just showing Marvel books and last week's indie special, I felt like I haven't really been down with my DC roots as of lately. So I think I did a little bit of overcompensating in this video on the DC end. Oh, and just as a side note, what did you guys think of the Justice League trailer? I haven't really talked about that at all. I think it looks really pretty cool, man. I think it's funny that there's already people shitting on it, saying that it looks like it was shot in the dark and it looks too dark. And I don't understand. I mean, I don't think it looks like to be blood and guts, and it's about an invasion from a place called Apocalypse, and we all know Darkseid isn't, a shiny Disney cartoon character. So, I don't know. And, I mean, can't we all agree that Logan was awesome? I mean, that was a pretty dark movie. How about Dark Knight with Heath Ledger? Also, a dark movie. I can't see why one of the main criticisms is that they want everything to be like this shiny palette like the Marvel movies, which I also like, but don't get me wrong, people will get sick of that formula sooner or later. I'll be seeing Guardians of the Galaxy the weekend that it comes out, but I do have some reservations about it. It is, I mean, from the trailers that I've seen, it looks great, but looks a little cartoony at the same time. So, all right, sorry, I was ranting there for a second and rambling. Green Lantern number 224. This is the last issue of, the Green Lantern Corps. Number 224, this is the last issue of the Green Lantern series that began in the 1960s. At issue 201, they retitled the series the Green Lantern Corps, and it was canceled within 2 years after that. So this is another part of my quest to get those long-running titles that began in my childhood and were canceled at some point. And a lot of times you're not going to see titles run for this long anymore, not in today's market and the publishing format the way it is today either. With exceptions, who knows? Walking Dead, Spawn, Savage Dragon. Those are like a couple of the exceptions to the rule. And I know that they just renumbered recently with Rebirth Action Comics and Detective Comics, and soon Marvel will be doing it also. But those are not the original volumes. It's just a subsequent volume that came afterwards, and they just renumber it. All right, another ramble out of the way. So, Green Lantern Corps number 224, and another last issue, Wonder Woman number 329. So, out of like the main flagship DC titles, I now have the last issues of Batman, Detective Comics, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Justice League, Brave and Bold, and I think that does it for me right now. So, pretty cool. Doctor Strange number 49. I saw this in a Strange Blade video from, I don't know, maybe like a month ago he was showing this book off, and it was just one of those cases where a fellow YouTuber shows a book, and I'm like, alright, how long will it take before I can get this book into my collection? And as awesome as this cover is, what I didn't know was once you open the book up, obviously, which is always cool when you have a comic book to look in the inside, but it happens to be drawn as well by one of my favorite art teams, Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin. So I'm going to have to seek out the rest of this particular story arc because, as some of you may know, they were also the art team for the Steve Englehart Detective Comics run, which, as I've stated before, aside from Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, that is the other classic Batman run from the 1970s. So very cool to pick that up, and thank you for showing that, Strange Blade. Here we go with Steel #1, Little Legends of Tomorrow spec, I guess. And it was cheap enough, high grade. It's from the Bronze Age. Why not? Continuing on with Bronze Age goodness, Giant Size Avengers #4. This is the marriage of the Vision and the Scarlet Witch. And with the exception of Reed and Sue Richards, marriage in the Marvel Universe, it's not for long. Even though the Vision and Scarlet Witch did have a good run, and Mary Jane and Peter Parker did have a good run, but for some reason, marriage in the Marvel Universe, the suits just don't like it. Continuing on, Shazam #34. Here's an example of a book that I didn't even know that I wanted, or even really existed for that matter, but this is one of those cases where the cover just sells it. How can you not want to pick this book up where you have Captain Marvel Jr. ready to pounce on a character called Captain Nazi? And the only reason I discovered that book is because this is a book I actually wanted. Shazam #35. This is the last issue of Shazam Volume 1. So, nice. Marvel Team Up #12. Spider-Man and one of my favorite characters, the Werewolf by Night. As you know, I'm a huge fan of anything Spider-Man from Silver Age to basically mid-Copper Age. And I do like the Marvel Team Up title. I'm by no means trying to be a completist about it, but I do have a list of certain Marvel Team Up issues that I want, especially some of the earlier ones, and some characters that Spider-Man doesn't have a tendency to interact with anymore, or very rarely. And this would be one of those cases. And I do like anytime I can get Werewolf by Night going against some of the mainstream Marvel Universe characters. So, Marvel Team Up #12. Marvel Team Up #74, Spider-Man and the Not Ready for Primetime Players. As we longtime SNL fans know, that is the cast of Saturday Night Live. And this is one of their early casts, if not the original cast. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not exactly young, but when this was initially on, it was way past my bedtime, and I didn't discover how awesome this particular cast was until Comedy Central seemingly played SNL reruns nonstop throughout the 1990s. But this is the cast that features Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Bill Murray, and Gilda Radner, just to name a few. And it also has an appearance from Stan Lee himself. So, as I've stated before, I love it when comic books and pop culture intermingle with each other, and this is like another good watermark of our pop culture and at the time in the 1970s. So, I thought that was a very cool pickup. Doesn't go for much, but like I said, love that Bronze Age Spider-Man goodness. And here's another very good example of that. Marvel Team Up #79, Spider-Man and Red Sonja, drawn beautifully by John Byrne, who was not a fan of John Byrne during the 1970s and 80s. I have no idea. Let me move these out of the way. Spider-Woman #32. I have been on the hunt for this cover for a while now. This is my favorite Spider-Woman cover of all time. It is drawn by the great Frank Miller. I know a lot of the younger generation do not like Frank Miller's art, but I can feel where they're coming from. I mean, I was the same way, believe it or not, when in the 1980s, when the older guys were trying to tell me how awesome Jack Kirby was, and I could not hear it. I would avoid Jack Kirby like the plague back in the day. And kind of like how music um, evolves, and your musical taste evolve over time, your artistic taste evolve over time. So I appreciate some of the older works of Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, Carmine Infantino, just to name a few of the great artists that came before my generation. And sooner or later, a lot of you guys that don't like Frank Miller's art, some of you will never like it, but some of you will find yourself growing to like it as the years go on. So anyway, the main reason that I wanted this wasn't necessarily Frank Miller, but it showcases all the classic horror characters from the old times. So I'm not sure who this is though. I'm not sure if that's Dr. Jekyll or supposed to be a witch of some sort. But classic werewolf, classic Dracula, classic Frankenstein, Frank Miller cover, Spider Woman versus Werewolf by Night. How can you not pick that up for $3? More Werewolf and by Night and Spider Woman goodness. Spider Woman number 6, featuring Werewolf by Night. I'm a sucker for it every time. And I finally ended up getting around to adding a copy of Spider Woman number 1 to my collection. Another one that I passed up numerous times because, once again, a very tough black covers, and for me, it was very tough for me to come by in a high grade like this. I paid like $20 for it, which I think is okay, but I don't know. Once I saw the grade on it, I kind of wanted to pay less. I wanted this to be kind of like a $10, $15 book, but $20 for a high grade Spider Woman number 1, and at least I can finally scratch it off the list. So, pretty nice. Giant-sized creatures, featuring Werewolf by Night and the first appearance of Tigra, formerly the cat. I haven't read this whole issue yet, but this is another example of a book that was on my list, but I just didn't want to pay the eBay prices, and I ended up getting this at one of my local comic shops. Back a couple of months ago when I, whichever comic book haul it was that I finally scored a Fantastic Four 48, I took a break, but I had started to buy a collection at one of my comic shops from a collection that one of my comic shops bought, obviously, and I have been nipping away at it for like the past 2 or 3 months, and this was from that collection. And just about everything in there is like between $10 to $40 tops. So I paid $20 for this. Another book that was hard for me to find in a good condition because these square bound covers, it's so tough to come from that come from this age, and a lot of times, I mean, this one isn't blown out, but they'll have a blown out bottom corner or top corner, or there'll be a chunk missing out of the spine. So once again, it wasn't something that was imperative on my list, but it was on my Werewolf by Night list. It was on my Bronze Age list, and once I could find something finally with a nice square spine like that, I had to pick it up. So very cool. How many times have I said very cool this video? Legion of Superheroes number 1, also from that collection. And another great thing from buying from this personal collection that this comic shop bought is it's been keeping me away from eBay. I mean, lately I've been falling back to eBay for a couple of books here and there, but it's just outstanding to be able to go out to a local comic bookshop, look at the books, have the books in my hand, not have to pay shipping. And it's pretty cool. It's been part of my Saturday ritual now for the past like 10 weeks. So Legion of Superheroes number 1. This is the first time that the Legion of Superheroes had their own title. If you would look this book up, it would be categorized or listed, whichever, as Legion of Superheroes Volume 1. Now, this is only a reprint series, but nonetheless, I wanted it in another book, at least for me, tough to find in high grade. And I only paid $10 for it. So I thought that was a steal. And I know a lot of people nowadays, especially, there aren't many Legion of Superhero fans left, but I still am. So they're just one creative team with a fresh takeaway of being relevant again. I would just give Grant Morrison the Legion of Superheroes and an army of fantastic artists, from Frank Quietly to Cameron Stewart to whoever wanted to work with Grant Morrison, and just let him go wild on the Legion of Superheroes. I think that would make them relevant pretty quickly. Have Frank Miller and Jim Lee on. I mean, not Frank Miller. What am I talking about? Grant Morrison and Jim Lee kick off the series, and then just have a subsequent hot art artist work with Grant Morrison and just build the Legion of Superheroes from there. At least that's what I would do. Reborn, #1. This is the Todd McFarlane variant. This is the initially, now I do buy Reborn. It's still on my list. Great title. I love it. Mark Millar, Greg Capullo. Great story. Great art. Everything that makes Image great is encompassed in this title, in my opinion. But this was the initial cover that I wanted when this book first came out. It was sold out everywhere, and I couldn't find it. I ended up settling for the Jock variant cover, which doesn't go for much, but I don't care. I'm a big fan of Jock, and anytime you have to quote-unquote settle for a Jock cover, that is not necessarily a bad thing. But went through Newberry Comics, who I always go through their variant bins, because you can get a lot of variants at a great deal there, and sometimes they'll get issues that have been hanging around at their other stores. So I ended up pulling this out of a bin last week for $12.99 or $11.99. I snatched that up. Todd McFarlane is probably my second favorite artist of all time, and as you can see, this guy has not lost anything. That is just a killer cover. And finally, ending it off, Iron Fist, #1 from his first series. Also from, from that collection that I've been buying. And great book. Another book, another premiere issue from the Bronze Age off the list. Have not been a fan of the Netflix series. I just cannot seem to get into it. I'm going to try to give it another go sooner or later, but just not feeling it. But this issue, good. Once again, outstanding John Byrne art. Hokey story. Hokey fight. I mean, this fight would never fly between Iron Fist and Iron Man. I mean, come on. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm a Batman fan, and I've seen him take on Superman, so I can't bitch too much about it. But classic Marvel, misunderstanding, heroes fight, heroes come to an understanding by the end of the issue. Great book. I enjoyed it more than the Netflix series, that is for sure. So that's all I have for this week. I will be back next week with another haul, maybe very X-heavy. I think I'm just going to show all the X-Men related stuff, all the X-Men related stuff that I've been buying for the past couple of months, and some pretty good stuff in there too. So I'll be back next week with another comic book haul. I'll see you all then. Thank you all for watching, commenting, liking, all that good stuff. So, yeah, that's all I have for this week. I'll see you all next week. Take care. See ya.